A study once revealed that most people meet the love of their life not during moments of perfect happiness, but right after a season of struggle, when they thought everything was falling apart. Isn't that striking? Because it means the heartbreaks, the detours, the nights you felt forgotten may have been preparing you for the exact moment God would align your path with the one soul destined to walk beside you. The truth is, divine introductions don't always come with lightning and noise. They often arrive quietly, in the middle of your pain, when you least expect it, but when you need it most. A study once revealed that most people encounter their life partner in the most unexpected chapters of their journey. That's not a random statistic. It reflects a truth that sits deep in the heart of human existence. Love, especially when it feels destined, is not a stroke of luck or a mere twist of fate. It is a piece of God's design, a thread carefully woven into the fabric of your story long before you even realized someone out there was walking a different path that would one day merge with yours. When you think about it, nothing in life that truly shapes us happens by accident. The timing of your birth, the family you were born into, the talents you carry, even the struggles that made you cry at night, each of these is a brushstroke on the canvas of your destiny. Why then would the arrival of your soulmate be any less intentional? C.S. Lewis often wrote that our longings, the deepest ones, point to something beyond ourselves. He suggested that when our hearts ache for connection, for someone who truly sees us, it is evidence that God Himself planted that desire. He knew that to walk this life, our spirits would need companionship not just for comfort, but for purpose. Picture two rivers. They flow from separate mountains, carving valleys, meeting rocks, shaping landscapes along the way. From above, it may look like they'll never cross. But unseen beyond hills and bends, they are moving toward the same confluence. At the right moment, after the right distance, they meet, and their waters become one. That is how God writes love stories. Not through chaos, not through chance, but through a design that often looks confusing when we are in the middle of it, yet makes perfect sense when viewed from a higher perspective. Psychologists talk about something called attachment, the deep wiring in our brain that makes us seek safety, trust, and belonging. From childhood, our minds and hearts are tuned to look for that safe harbor. But while science explains the mechanics, faith explains the mystery. You don't simply stumble into someone who heals you in ways you didn't even know you were wounded. That kind of connection carries fingerprints larger than human hands. That kind of meeting is a divine introduction, arranged in a way that no dating app or human calculation could fully orchestrate. There's a powerful truth hidden in plain sight. If your soulmate was only a matter of chance, the odds would be against you. Out of billions of people, how would you ever find the one who matches not just your smile, but your soul? Yet stories keep proving that people meet across impossible distances, across different seasons, even after painful endings. It's almost as if something greater is at work, gently pushing two lives into alignment. Fear makes people believe they are alone, that their story is empty, that love passed them by. But if you look closer, what you call loneliness may be a hallway leading you to a room you've never entered before. What you call heartbreak may be the very tool God uses to refine your vision so you recognize the right person when they appear. Think about this. Many of the most powerful love stories begin in places of brokenness. A man loses his job, moves to a new city, and sits in a coffee shop where a stranger smiles at him, beginning a journey that changes everything. A woman recovering from grief takes a course to distract her mind, only to meet the very person who becomes her greatest support. Were those coincidences? Or were they doors that opened exactly when God knew the heart was ready to walk through them? C.S. Lewis often emphasized that God does not waste our pain. Every disappointment, every goodbye, every season where you felt overlooked was part of a deeper preparation. He described God as an author, and in every great book the early chapters carry twists and challenges that only make sense later when the resolution unfolds. When you think your story is stuck, maybe that is the exact moment the author is setting the stage for an introduction that will shift the entire plot. Science, too, nods to this mystery. Research in neuroscience shows that the brain recognizes familiarity and patterns. It gravitates toward people whose presence feels like home, even if you can't explain why. When God introduces you to your soulmate, you feel it not only in your heart, but in the way your body rests in. Their presence, your pulse steadies, your mind clears, your laughter feels lighter. It's not infatuation that vanishes like smoke. It's a peace that roots itself deep in your spirit. That peace is one of the surest signs of divine orchestration. Some might say, but people meet partners all the time. Doesn't that mean it's random? Look closer. There's a difference between an encounter and an alignment. Encounters are common. Alignments are rare. An encounter may excite you for a moment, but an alignment transforms your life. That's why so many connections fade. They were never meant to be the rivers that merge. They were stepping stones, teachers, reminders of what you truly long for. The real introduction comes when the lessons are complete, when you've learned to stop searching with desperation and start living with trust. Fear tells you time is running out. Faith tells you the timing is perfect. That tension is what makes waiting so hard. People feel anxiety pressing on them, as if they need to hurry, settle, compromise. But every time you ignore the blueprint and chase what is not aligned, you only delay what is meant for you. The most extraordinary stories often unfold not when people push harder, but when they let go and let the flow of life carry them. God's introductions are never rushed, they are right on time. C.S. Lewis once said that God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. In love, this means that often the ache you feel, the longing that seems unanswered, is not silence, it is direction. That ache reminds you that love exists, that your story is not finished, that your future is still unfolding. It is not an empty craving, but a signpost pointing you forward. Consider the beauty of orchestration. Two people may live in different states, born years apart, carrying separate dreams. Yet through a chain of events, jobs, relocations, friendships, even hardships, they are drawn into the same space at the same time, ready in ways they couldn't have been before. If you trace the paths backward, you see that what felt like chaos was actually choreography. Every closed door was pushing them toward each other. Every delay was aligning their steps. Every setback was setting up the stage. The human heart understands this truth at a level beyond words. That's why people cry at weddings, even strangers. Deep down, we recognize that what we're witnessing is not just two people saying vows, but two lives converging as they were meant to all along. That recognition comes from the same place that tells you your own story is also being written, that your soulmate is not lost in the world, but moving toward you even now. The question is not whether God has written that chapter. The question is whether you trust the author. When your patience runs thin, when your fear grows loud, when your loneliness feels unbearable, remember the rivers. They may seem distant, winding, and slow, but they are moving. And when they meet, the wait, the wandering, the wondering, all fade into a peace that makes you say, this was worth every delay. Your soulmate is not an accident. Your love story is not a lottery ticket. It is a divine appointment written by hands that see the beginning and the end. C.S. Lewis believed that our deepest longings point toward a reality beyond us. That longing for love, for true partnership, is not there to mock you. It is there to remind you that something real is on its way. Trust that design. Trust that timing. Trust that the author has not forgotten your story. And when that introduction comes, it will not feel forced or frantic. It will feel like two rivers meeting, like home after a long journey, like the missing piece was not missing at all. It was being shaped for you, just as you were being shaped for them. There is a reason why love often comes after a season of waiting, growth, or even heartbreak. Before a true soulmate appears, God begins shaping you into the person who can not only recognize them, but also cherish and keep them. If love were given too early, in a stage where wounds are still raw or wisdom is still shallow, the very gift meant to heal could be damaged by unprepared hands. This is why preparation is not punishment. Is God's way of aligning your inner world with the love He is sending into your life. Think about the times in your life when you wanted something too quickly. Maybe it was a job you thought you deserved, a dream you were chasing, or even a relationship you believed was meant to last forever. You were certain you were ready. Then it fell apart. At first, it felt cruel. You questioned why life seemed to withhold something so beautiful. Yet looking back, you can see that version of you was not ready. You were still learning discipline, still wrestling with insecurities, still carrying fears that would have suffocated the very blessing you longed for. What felt like rejection was actually redirection. What felt like delay was preparation. In relationships, this truth becomes even more evident. Psychology shows that people often attract partners who mirror their internal state. When you are insecure, you tend to attract people who exploit those insecurities. When you lack boundaries, you gravitate toward those who cross them. When you are lost in identity, you become drawn to those who only deepen the confusion. It's not fate that brings these people, it is reflection. You attract who you are, not who you want. That is why God spends time shaping you before introducing you to the one He designed for you. C.S. Lewis once suggested that suffering is a tool through which God awakens us. In love, this awakening often comes through the challenges that prepare the heart. Breakups that felt unbearable were not simply endings, they were lessons in resilience. Loneliness that felt heavy was not simply emptiness, it was training in independence. Struggles with self-worth were not simply trials, they were opportunities to rediscover the truth of who you are in God's eyes. Without those stages, the presence of your soulmate might feel overwhelming, confusing, or even threatening because you would approach it with wounds rather than wisdom. There is a striking pattern in life. The moment you stop chasing love as a cure for emptiness, you become ready for a love that complements fullness. When you learn to stand on your own feet, love no longer feels like a crutch. When you heal from old scars, love no longer feels like a bandage. Instead, it becomes a celebration of two whole souls walking together, not two broken pieces trying to make a fragile whole. This preparation is the unseen miracle that allows love to thrive. Think about the story of someone who battled addiction for years. They tried to fill the void with substances, relationships, distractions, anything to silence the ache. Then came the season of recovery. It was painful, lonely, exhausting. Yet in that very process, they discovered strength they never knew existed. They learned discipline, honesty, vulnerability. Years later, when they met their soulmate, the bond was not built on desperation, but on shared healing. Without the preparation of recovery, they would have destroyed the relationship with the weight of their unhealed past. That is how God works. He shapes you in the fire so you can handle the gift when it arrives. Science backs this up in fascinating ways. Studies show that emotional resilience increases relationship satisfaction. People who have faced trials and grown from them report stronger communication, higher empathy, and more commitment in long-term partnerships. This means the storms you thought were breaking you were actually strengthening the muscles you would need to hold on to love when it finally came. Waiting seasons are not wasted, they are weight training for the soul. It's tempting to believe that love will fix everything. That once your soulmate arrives, the loneliness disappears, the pain evaporates, the self-doubt vanishes. But that's not love, that's escape. Real love is not about fixing brokenness, it's about expanding wholeness. If you carry unhealed wounds, even the most genuine love will bleed under the pressure. That is why God takes time to work on your heart first. He teaches you patience so you don't demand constant reassurance. He teaches you forgiveness so you don't poison the relationship with old bitterness. He teaches you identity so you don't lose yourself in another person. This is preparation, and it is sacred. Consider how athletes train. They don't step into championships without discipline, practice, and conditioning. Their bodies must be tested, stretched, and strengthened before the big day. Love works the same way. You are not simply waiting for your soulmate, you are training for them. Every challenge, every delay, every season of stretching is shaping you into someone who can love with endurance, not just excitement. There's also a spiritual dimension that runs deeper than psychology or science. When God prepares you, He is not only refining your character, He is tuning your spirit. Without preparation, you may not even recognize your soulmate when they arrive. They might walk right past you, and you would dismiss them because your eyes are clouded by superficial desires. Preparation clears that vision. It strips away false ideals, the shallow checklists, the illusions that love is only about attraction or status. Instead, it teaches you to recognize the deeper qualities: kindness, faith, humility, shared purpose. That recognition only comes when the soul is trained to see beyond the surface. Some people enter relationships too soon, and the result is heartbreak that could have been avoided. They try to force timing, thinking they can outsmart God's plan. But a love that comes before preparation is like handing a child a flame. It burns instead of warms. Timing without preparation is dangerous. That's why God delays. Why He teaches through solitude. Why He strengthens through trials. He knows what you cannot see yet, that unprepared love is unsustainable love. There is a deep comfort in realizing this truth. It means your waiting is not pointless. It means your struggles are not wasted. It means the nights you cried, wondering why love seemed far away, were not signs of abandonment, but signs of construction. Something was being built inside you. Strength was forming. Wisdom was solidifying. Faith was being stretched. And all of it was moving you closer to the day when you would not just meet your soulmate, but be ready to hold them, cherish them, and build a life together. Think about those moments when you grew the most. Were they moments of ease? Or were they moments when life tested you to the core? Growth rarely comes on mountaintops, it comes in valleys. That growth becomes the very soil where love takes root. Without it, even the right person cannot flourish by your side. With it, love becomes not just a feeling, but a foundation. Preparation also has a way of humbling you. It strips away pride, the belief that you know what is best, the arrogance that thinks you can rush God. It reminds you that love is not earned by force, but given by grace. It makes you appreciate the gift more deeply when it finally comes. Those who have been prepared often love with greater tenderness because they know what it feels like to wait, to struggle, to long. Their gratitude turns into devotion. The beauty is that preparation is not just about you. As God is shaping you, He is also shaping your soulmate. Somewhere they may be going through their own trials, their own waiting, their own refining. When you both finally meet, the timing will not only be right, it will be perfect because both lives will have been shaped to fit together like pieces of a puzzle carved by divine hands. So when you feel frustrated by the waiting, when loneliness whispers lies into your heart, when impatience makes you question your worth, remember this: you are not being punished. You are being prepared. You are not forgotten. You are being formed. Every lesson, every scar, every delay is shaping you into the person who will not only find love, but sustain it. God is not withholding from you. He is protecting you until you are ready. And when that moment comes, when the preparation meets the promise, you will understand. You will look back at the tears and see training. You will look back at the delays and see design. You will look back at the pain and see purpose. The wait will make sense because the love that finally arrives will be strong enough, pure enough, and sacred enough to honor the preparation it took to receive it. There is something extraordinary about the timing of love. People often think love is about searching harder, swiping faster, or forcing doors to open. Yet when you ask those who have truly met the person destined for them, their stories rarely sound like strategies. They sound like surprises. They talk about meeting someone at the exact moment they were not looking, at the very season when they felt unprepared, in places they never planned to be. That is because love does not bend to human calendars. It bends to divine alignment. Timing is the invisible hand that shapes the course of relationships. Two people can exist in the same city, cross paths at the same coffee shop, even sit in the same class, and still never see each other until the season is right. It's not that their eyes cannot notice. It's that their souls are not ready to recognize. God waits until the heart is prepared, the lessons are learned, and the circumstances align before unveiling the introduction that can change everything. What feels delayed is not denial, it is orchestration. Think about the way seasons work in nature. You cannot plant seeds in the dead of winter and expect fruit overnight. The soil must rest, the frost must thaw, the sunlight must shift before growth can begin. In the same way, your heart may need time to heal from past wounds, to learn boundaries, to discover purpose before the right person can enter. If love came too early, you might sabotage it. If love came too late, you might harden yourself against it. The sacred beauty of timing is that it arrives when it is most needed, not when it is most wanted. Neuroscience gives us an interesting perspective on this. The human brain has what researchers call a recognition bias. It is wired to identify familiarity and safety. Yet those cues often go unnoticed until a person is emotionally mature enough to interpret them correctly. Someone you dismissed years ago as uninteresting could later feel like home, not because they changed, but because your perception changed. This is why timing matters. Love requires not only the right person, but the right version of you to meet them. There are countless stories that reveal this truth. A man spends years focused on his career, pouring all his energy into building stability. At the time, relationships keep failing, not because the women he met were wrong, but because he wasn't ready to balance love with ambition. Years later, after achieving his goals, he meets someone who matches his values, and for the first time, he has the space to nurture the relationship. The timing transforms what would have once been impossible into something enduring. A woman goes through heartbreak so deep, she swears she will never love again. She retreats into solitude, where she rebuilds her confidence, rediscovers her faith, and finds joy in her own company. Just when she begins to feel whole, she meets someone who reflects the new strength she carries. If that person had appeared during her season of brokenness, she might have pushed them away or clung too tightly. Instead, the timing allows her to step into love with clarity, not desperation. It is natural to feel frustrated in waiting seasons. Loneliness can feel like an endless tunnel, and culture often pressures people with questions. When will you get married? When will you settle down? When will you meet someone? Those voices make it easy to believe you are behind, that your love story has been forgotten. Yet waiting is not a curse, it is a form of protection. Sometimes God keeps certain doors closed because opening them too soon would harm you. He shields you not to punish you, but to preserve you until the right moment arrives. C.S. Lewis once wrote that God is never hurried, for he works outside of time, as we understand it. That perspective can be hard to accept when your heart longs for companionship, but it also brings comfort. If God operates beyond time, then your story is never late. What feels like delay to you is simply alignment to Him. When all the unseen pieces fit together, the lessons, the growth, the circumstances, you step into a chapter that feels less like chance and more like destiny. Think about the power of alignment. Two people living on opposite sides of the world could be moving through entirely separate journeys. One might be finishing school, while the other is starting a new career. One might be healing from grief, while the other is discovering new purpose. At the right moment, something shifts, a job transfer, a friend's introduction, a chance encounter, and their paths converge. If they had met years earlier, the relationship would not have survived. Meeting later, when both are ready, creates a foundation strong enough to last. That is alignment. Fear often tricks people into rushing. They worry that time is running out, that if they don't grasp at love now, they will miss it forever. Yet that fear leads to settling, to clinging to relationships that were never meant to last. True timing requires trust, and trust requires courage. It is a surrender of control, a belief that what is written for you cannot be taken away. That surrender is not easy, but it is the soil where peace grows. There is also something deeply humbling about the way timing works. It reminds us that love is not something we can manufacture. We can prepare, grow, and position ourselves, but the actual meeting, the sacred spark, happens when life decides it's time. That humility keeps us from idolizing control and teaches us to value patience. Those who have waited often love more deeply because they know what it means to long. Their gratitude shapes their devotion. Science adds another layer of wisdom here. Studies on long-term relationships show that couples who meet later in life, after building personal growth and independence, often report higher satisfaction. They enter the bond not from a place of need, but from a place of choice. That choice strengthens commitment. It shows that waiting seasons are not wasted years, but investments in a love that can endure. There are countless hidden signs that timing is at work. You might look back at an old relationship and realize that its failure freed you for something greater. You might recognize that the job you hated led you to a city where your soulmate lived. You might notice that the very delay you resented was the bridge that connected you to the right person. These signs are easy to miss in the moment, but become clear when the story unfolds. What once felt like chaos begins to look like choreography. The sacredness of timing also teaches perspective. It reminds us that love is not the only destination. Your single seasons carry purpose too. They are not empty waiting rooms, but classrooms where you learn, heal, and grow. When the right person arrives, you will be able to love them more fully because you loved yourself during the waiting. That self-love makes you stronger, steadier, and more prepared to build a life together. There is a peace that comes when you stop fighting the clock and start trusting the author of time. You realize that you do not need to chase what is already written into your story. You realize that even if the path feels slow, is leading you exactly where you need to be. You realize that every closed door, every delay, every detour is not random, it is redirection. When timing reveals itself, it often feels surreal. Two rivers that flowed separately suddenly merge, and it feels like they were always meant to. You look back and see how every step brought you closer, even the painful ones. You see how the heartbreaks were not wasted, but were shaping you into someone who could love better. You see how the waiting built patience, the struggles built strength, and the timing built faith. Love that comes at the right time feels different. It doesn't rush or confuse. It doesn't demand or suffocate. It settles you. It feels like breathing deeply after holding your breath for years. It feels like home. That feeling is the reward of timing. That feeling is the confirmation that alignment has taken place. Trusting timing is not easy, but it is worth it. It demands faith, patience, and courage, but it delivers peace, clarity, and joy. Your soulmate is not late. Your love story is not forgotten. You are moving through seasons designed to shape you, protect you, and prepare you for the exact moment when everything aligns. When that moment comes, you won't need to question it. You'll see the fingerprints of God on every detail, every delay, every detour. And you'll realize that timing was never your enemy. Timing was your guardian, holding love until you were ready to receive it. Love becomes fragile when it is built on surface attraction alone. The beauty of a face can fade, the thrill of romance can quiet down, the spark of passion can change its intensity, but when love is rooted in purpose, it carries a power that endures storms. There is something unshakable about two souls who find not just affection for each other, but a reason for their bond that reaches beyond themselves. That reason acts like an anchor, holding them steady in seasons of struggle and lifting them higher in seasons of joy. People often confuse purpose with compatibility, yet they are not the same. Compatibility means you share hobbies, preferences, or lifestyle rhythms. Purpose runs deeper. It asks why the two of you exist together. It asks what your union contributes not only to your happiness, but also to the world around you. Purpose transforms love from a private comfort into a living force that inspires growth, service, and legacy. Look at some of the greatest partnerships in history. Their bond was not simply about enjoying each other's company. They often faced enormous challenges: war, loss, financial hardship, societal opposition. Yet their relationships endured because they shared a vision. They were not just two individuals clinging to each other for security, they were a team carrying a mission. Whether that mission was raising a family, building a dream, serving a cause, or creating change, their love was sustained by something bigger than both of them. A couple who shares purpose sees each other as more than companions. They see each other as catalysts. Each person unlocks potential in the other, calling forth strengths that may have remained hidden if they had walked alone. One partner might bring courage when the other feels afraid. The other might bring patience when the first is restless. Together, they balance, refine, and magnify each other's lives. Without purpose, love can feel like drifting. With purpose, love feels like direction. It's easy to fall in love with someone's laughter, charm, or beauty, but those things do not guarantee endurance. When seasons of hardship arrive, and they always do, what keeps love alive is the sense that your bond is part of something sacred. Bills pile up, sickness interrupts plans, children test patience, careers demand sacrifice, and dreams sometimes get delayed. In those moments, attraction alone will not carry the weight. It is purpose that whispers, "We are here for more than this storm. We are here to build, to grow, to overcome, to create." Purpose is not always grand or public. It doesn't mean your love must lead movements or appear on history books. Sometimes purpose is raising children who carry kindness into the world. Sometimes it is supporting each other's calling in quiet ways no one else sees. Sometimes it is creating a home that feels like sanctuary, where everyone who walks through the door feels peace. Purpose can be simple, but it is never shallow. It always carries depth. Faith teaches us that God weaves relationships with divine intention. He doesn't bring people together by accident. Each union has a role, and when couples seek Him for direction, they discover that their love is not just about them, it is about contributing to a greater story. This is why relationships that center faith often find resilience. They see love as a calling, not only as a comfort. They ask not only, how do we keep each other happy, but also, how do we fulfill what we were designed to do together? That question is the heart of purpose. Psychology also confirms this truth. Research shows that couples who share meaningful goals report higher levels of satisfaction and longevity. Shared purpose gives them a reason to persevere when challenges arise. Instead of seeing obstacles as threats, they see them as part of their shared mission. Their story is not about avoiding problems, it is about facing them together for the sake of something larger than themselves. There is a beauty in watching couples who know their purpose. You can see it in the way they look at each other during struggle. They don't just see their partner, they see the dream they are protecting, the calling they are building, the family they are nurturing, the legacy they are leaving. That vision strengthens their patience and expands their capacity to forgive. They are less quick to walk away because they know that walking away doesn't just end the relationship, it ends the mission they were entrusted with. Think of two people climbing a mountain together. If their only goal is to enjoy the view at the top, the long climb will frustrate them. The rocks, the exhaustion, the storms may convince them to turn back. But if their goal is bigger, to discover their strength, to honor the journey, to plant a flag for others to follow, then the climb becomes meaningful. the struggle becomes part of the story. Love rooted in purpose is like that climb. The pain does not destroy it, it deepens it. There is also a kind of fear that dissolves when love is rooted in purpose. Many people live in fear that love will fade, that feelings will change, that time will steal passion. When purpose is present, fear loses its grip. Purpose reassures you that even if emotions fluctuate, the mission remains. Even if attraction ebbs and flows, the commitment to what you are building stands. That stability brings peace. It allows love to mature instead of crumble. Purpose also shapes the way couples view sacrifice. In shallow love, sacrifice feels like loss. In purposeful love, sacrifice feels like investment. A husband who works late to provide for his family does not feel robbed if he knows it is building a future they dreamed of. A wife who sets aside personal ambitions for a season to nurture children does not feel cheated if she knows her role is sacred in shaping lives. When both partners understand their shared purpose, sacrifices become sacred exchanges, not resentments. The truth is that love without purpose can feel intoxicating in the beginning, but empty over time. People wonder why relationships that start with overwhelming passion sometimes end in bitterness. It is because passion without direction burns hot, but burns out. Purpose is the fuel that keeps the fire alive long after the sparks fade. Purpose turns love into something not just emotional but spiritual, not just temporary but eternal. There is also an empowering freedom in purpose. It allows couples to weather outside judgment or misunderstanding. When others cannot see why you are together, purpose makes you unshakable. You don't need validation from the world when you know the meaning behind your union. You don't need approval when you understand that your connection was written for a mission beyond human explanation. That freedom allows you to focus on each other, not on critics. Purpose also brings healing. When people enter relationships with scars from their past, the right partner with shared purpose can help transform those wounds into wisdom. Together, they can take pain and turn it into service. They can take failures and turn them into lessons for others. They can take brokenness and turn it into compassion. Purpose redeems pain, giving it meaning, and making love not just a comfort, but a form of healing. When love is rooted in purpose, even time itself feels different. Years no longer feel like weight, they feel like testimony. Wrinkles become reminders of laughter shared. Gray hair becomes evidence of storms weathered. Silence between two people feels safe, not awkward, because their bond is not built on constant excitement, but on shared destiny. Purpose transforms aging from a fear into a celebration. Love that carries purpose does not only touch the two people involved, it touches everyone around them. Children raised in such homes learn stability. Friends who watch such couples are inspired. Communities impacted by such love feel strengthened. Purposeful love radiates outward. It becomes contagious, showing others that real love is possible, and it is worth waiting for. Purpose is what makes two souls walk through fire and come out holding hands. Purpose is what makes love last when beauty fades, when passion fluctuates, when hardship strikes. Purpose is what makes love not just a fleeting chapter, but a lifelong story. Without it, relationships drift like leaves in the wind. With it, they stand like trees, deeply rooted, weathering storms and bearing fruit for generations. When you understand this truth, you stop asking only, who do I want to love? And you start asking, what do I want to build? What story do I want my love to tell? What mission am I willing to give my life to alongside another soul? Those questions lead you to a love that is not only real, but unshakable. A love that doesn't just make you happy, but makes you whole. A love that doesn't just change your days, but leaves a mark on eternity. Love has a way of disguising itself. Sometimes what looks like love at first glance is nothing more than a shadow of it, a fragile imitation that excites for a season, but leaves you broken in the long run. The challenge is not only about finding someone to love, but learning to recognize when love is authentic and when it is a counterfeit. This recognition shapes the entire course of your life because the wrong relationship drains you while the right one builds you. People often confuse intensity with authenticity. When a relationship begins with fireworks, overwhelming emotions, and constant highs, it feels convincing. It feels as though destiny itself arranged the connection. Yet research shows that relationships fueled only by high intensity can quickly spiral into toxicity because passion without peace is unstable. You may find yourself exhausted, second-guessing your worth, or feeling more confusion than clarity. The sign of authentic love is not chaos, but peace. Real love calms your soul even in its most passionate moments. Think about it like this. When you stand near fire, you feel warmth, but if the flames grow out of control, they burn you. Counterfeit love burns. Authentic love warms. It doesn't demand you lose yourself. It doesn't force you into fear, and it doesn't make you question if you're enough. Instead, it becomes the safe space where your identity can grow stronger, not weaker. You feel more alive, not less. You feel more free, not trapped. Authenticity in love is revealed in the fruits it produces. If a relationship consistently leads to anxiety, distrust, or emotional bruises, it is showing you its truth. If a relationship consistently inspires growth, healing, and joy, it is showing you its truth. We sometimes ignore those signs because we fear being alone, but ignoring them costs us years of peace. Waiting for authenticity is painful in the short term, yet deeply rewarding in the long run. There is a deep fear in many hearts, the fear of being deceived by love. That fear pushes people to cling tightly to whoever shows interest, as if settling is safer than waiting. But authentic love does not arrive out of desperation. It arrives when your spirit is prepared to receive it. Psychologists say that healthy relationships are built on trust, communication, and mutual respect. None of those can thrive in an environment of manipulation or deceit. If you constantly feel small around someone, if your voice feels silenced, if your dreams feel dismissed, that is not love. That is control disguised as love. C.S. Lewis once wrote that love is not about affectionate feelings alone, but about a steady will to seek the good of the other. Authenticity reveals itself in consistent actions, not fleeting emotions. A partner who truly loves you will not only celebrate your successes, but also stand beside you in your struggles. They will not only say they care, but prove it with patience, forgiveness, and loyalty. Their presence will never feel like a weight chained to your ankle. It will feel like wings lifting you higher. Authenticity is also tested in silence. Many relationships thrive in noise, in constant activity, in distraction. But when the distractions are stripped away, when silence fills the room, when life slows down, authenticity becomes clear. If you feel restless, uncomfortable, or disconnected in those moments, something is missing. Authentic love brings ease even in stillness. Two people can sit quietly, saying nothing, yet still feel deeply connected. That is authenticity. There is another layer to this truth. Authentic love heals wounds instead of creating new ones. Everyone carries scars into a relationship, childhood insecurities, betrayals from the past, fears about the future. An unhealthy relationship pokes at those scars, making them bleed again. Authentic love treats those scars gently, not by pretending they don't exist, but by proving that you can be loved in spite of them. It tells you that you are not defined by your pain. It reminds you that your brokenness does not disqualify you from being worthy of loyalty. The science of attachment explains this well. When a partner is secure and emotionally present, they help soothe the nervous system of the other. Anxiety diminishes, trust grows, and healing begins. Love literally changes the brain. Authentic love rewires your sense of safety. It tells your nervous system, you are not in danger here. And when that message repeats long enough, the old wounds begin to close. That is how love heals, not by magic, but by steady, consistent safety. Fear whispers that if you wait for such love, you may never find it. Fear pushes you into counterfeit connections because at least they look real for a while. But wisdom says otherwise. Wisdom teaches that authenticity is worth the wait because once you taste it, you will never confuse chaos for love again. You will never settle for someone who diminishes your spirit because you will have felt what it means to be seen, heard, and cherished. It is important to say that authenticity is not perfection. No partner is flawless. No relationship is without disagreements. No love is without seasons of hardship. The difference is that authentic love survives imperfection. It survives because the commitment is rooted in respect, not just desire. Arguments may happen, but they end with understanding, not destruction. Disappointments may occur, but they are met with grace, not bitterness. Authenticity is not the absence of struggle. It is the presence of strength to overcome it together. Faith gives this perspective a deeper layer. God does not send a soulmate to destroy you. He sends one to strengthen you. The wrong person drains your energy, pulls you away from your purpose, and leaves you spiritually dry. The right person calls you higher, brings you closer to your calling, and nourishes your faith. When love is authentic, it does not compete with God, it points you back to Him. That alignment is what makes it endure through storms. There is a quiet confidence that comes when you find authentic love. You no longer feel the need to perform, to pretend, to shapeshift into someone else just to be accepted. You are fully yourself, and still you are fully loved. That freedom is priceless. You don't walk on eggshells, fearing the day your true self will be rejected. Instead, you walk boldly, knowing your partner chose not a mask, but your authentic soul. That kind of acceptance changes everything. Authenticity also demands courage. It requires you to say no to relationships that look good on the surface, but feel wrong in the soul. It requires you to walk away from someone who excites your heart, but disturbs your peace. It requires patience to wait when everyone else seems to be moving ahead. Courage is the price of authenticity, and it is always worth paying. When love is real, you will know because it does not rush you, it does not confuse you, it does not belittle you. It will challenge you to grow, yes, but will never tear you down. It will stretch your faith, but not shatter your worth. It will bring correction, but always with kindness. The test is simple. Does this relationship draw out the best version of me, or does it crush me into a smaller version of myself? Authentic love always draws out the best. Think of the relationships you admire, the ones that stand the test of time. They are rarely built on glamour or intensity alone. They are built on authenticity. These couples endure because they tell the truth to each other, because they stay when it would be easier to run, because they love with intention, not just with emotion. Their love feels steady, almost ordinary at times, but its strength is extraordinary. That is the paradox of authenticity. It doesn't always look flashy, but it outlasts the storms that destroy counterfeit love. The test of authenticity is not a one-time exam. It is a continual process, revealed in the way a partner shows up day after day. Time exposes what is real. Time exposes whether someone's words align with their actions. Time exposes whether passion is accompanied by respect. That is why patience is so important. Give love time, and it will reveal itself for what it truly is. The counterfeit will crumble, the authentic will endure. To recognize authentic love, you must also know yourself. If you do not know your worth, you will confuse attention for affection, intensity for intimacy, and control for care. Authenticity begins with self-awareness. When you know who you are and what you deserve, you can discern what is real. You can set boundaries that protect your peace. You can say no to what wounds you because you trust that what heals you will come in its time. Every person longs for love that feels safe, strong, and unshakable. That longing is not a weakness, it is a reflection of how God designed the human soul. We were never meant to walk alone, but we were also never meant to walk in chains. Authentic love is the balance. It is not dependency, it is partnership. It is not control, it is freedom. It is not fear, it is trust. And when you find it, you realize that every heartbreak that came before was not wasted. It was preparation to recognize the real thing when it arrived. Authentic love heals, not because it erases pain, but because it teaches you that pain is not the end of the story. It tells you that brokenness can be mended, trust can be rebuilt, and joy can be found again. It tells you that love is not a fairy tale, but a sacred reality, something you can touch and feel, and build your life upon. And when you experience that, you understand why settling for less is never worth it. There comes a time in life when you realize that love was never meant to be only about romance. It was never meant to be just candlelight dinners, pretty words, or butterflies in your stomach. Real love is about transformation. When God places the right person in your life, something shifts inside of you, not because they complete you, but because they awaken the parts of you that were asleep. A true soulmate does not pull you away from your purpose, but pushes you deeper into it. It is a strange and beautiful thing to meet someone who makes you believe in your own potential. For years, you might have doubted yourself, hidden your dreams, or carried insecurities like heavy chains. Then you encounter someone who looks at you and sees more than your scars. They see strength where you see weakness. They see possibility where you see failure. They see God's fingerprint in places you thought were smudged beyond recognition. That is not ordinary. That is a sacred gift. Love that transforms is not content with keeping you the same. It gently challenges your excuses. It inspires you to take risks that align with your calling. It whispers to you in your low moments, reminding you that you were not created for mediocrity, but for meaning. A soulmate who is truly sent by God will never be jealous of your growth or intimidated by your success. They will cheer for you, even when the world turns its back. They will believe in you when your own faith feels weak. That kind of partnership becomes fuel for destiny. Psychologists explain that humans often underestimate their own abilities until they are in an environment that nurtures growth. This is why relationships are so powerful. The right relationship becomes a greenhouse for the soul, a place where potential blossoms under the sunlight of encouragement. The wrong relationship, on the other hand, becomes like a storm that stunts growth, breaking the fragile stems before they can bloom. Transformation requires the right soil, the right support, and the right partner. There is an energy that flows when two people align with each other's higher purpose. They push one another forward instead of holding each other back. They see each other's flaws, but they refuse to let those flaws define the story. They know that transformation is not instant, it is a process, a daily shaping. And they are willing to walk that process together. The transformation may not always feel comfortable because growth rarely does, but it will always feel worth it. Think about the way a diamond is formed. It starts as carbon, something common hidden beneath the earth. Only under pressure and heat does it become something priceless. A soulmate who is truly meant for you becomes part of that refining process. They do not run when pressure comes. They do not abandon you when life gets heavy. They stay, and together you endure the heat, emerging stronger, brighter, more valuable than before. Transformation happens in those fires. There is also something spiritual about this transformation. The right partner doesn't just make you feel good about yourself, they help you draw closer to God. They remind you of prayer when you forget. They speak faith into your fears. They encourage you to forgive when bitterness tries to harden your heart. They walk beside you as you pursue not only dreams, but divine purpose. When God brings a soulmate, He brings a partner in destiny, not just in comfort. This person is not just there to share laughter, but to share burdens, not just to celebrate victories, but to help carry the cross. There are countless stories of individuals who found their courage, their vision, and even their calling after meeting the right partner. Maybe they always wanted to start a business, but were too afraid until their soulmate reminded them of their gift. Maybe they always longed to serve others, but felt too small until their soulmate reminded them that small seeds grow into great trees. Maybe they carried shame from their past until their soulmate reminded them that grace is stronger than guilt. Transformation is not only about what you accomplish, it is about who you become in the process of being loved well. Transformation through love also reveals itself in the way you handle pain. Life does not spare anyone from hardship. Careers fall apart, health falters, money becomes scarce, friendships break, storms rage. In shallow love, those storms break the bond. In transformative love, the storms deepen the bond. You find yourself saying, "We went through the fire together, and we are still here." That shared resilience becomes part of your identity as a couple, and it strengthens both of you individually. The science of relationships points to something called emotional contagion. It means that the emotions of one partner spill into the other. When one is anxious, the other feels it. When one is calm, the other absorbs it. In the same way, when one grows, the other grows too. That is why transformation in authentic love doesn't stay contained in one heart. It spreads across both, creating a cycle of continuous growth. One person dares to step out in faith, and the other follows. One learns patience, and the other reflects it. One becomes more compassionate, and the other learns to extend grace. The growth is shared, and the transformation becomes undeniable. There is something deeply moving about realizing that your soulmate is not afraid of your brokenness. They don't see your past as disqualification, but as raw material for your future. They don't flinch when they see the parts of you that are unpolished. They lean in and help you refine them. That acceptance in itself is transformative because it teaches you that you can be loved without pretense. When someone knows your flaws and still chooses you, the fear of rejection loses its power. You step into a new level of freedom, and in that freedom, growth flourishes. Transformation also shows in the legacy a couple leaves. Two people who are aligned in purpose do not just impact each other, they impact everyone around them. Children raised in such homes grow up seeing what real love looks like. Friends who witness such love are inspired to aim higher. Communities touched by such couples are lifted. Transformation ripples outward, far beyond the two people who first experienced it. That ripple becomes part of their eternal story. Some may wonder how to know if the transformation they feel is authentic or just temporary excitement. The answer lies in consistency. Anyone can inspire you for a week, True soulmates inspire you for a lifetime. Anyone can say words that sound uplifting. A soulmate lives those words through actions. Anyone can make you feel good in a moment. A soulmate helps you become good for the long run. Transformation is measured not by how you feel in the beginning, but by how you grow over time. Faith teaches that love is meant to be sanctifying. That means it is not only meant to comfort, but also to purify, to stretch, to sharpen. A soulmate who comes from God does not let you remain stagnant. They push you toward patience when you are tempted to be short-tempered. They push you toward courage when fear grips your heart. They push you toward humility when pride whispers lies. In the process, you become more aligned with the person God created you to be. That is the sacred work of transformation. This kind of love also requires that you give as much as you receive. Transformation is not one-sided. If your partner is lifting you, you must also lift them. If they are speaking life into you, you must also speak life into them. The power of transformation lies in reciprocity. Two people committed to sharpening each other will always rise higher than two people content with staying the same. The beauty of transformation in love is that it does not erase individuality. You do not lose yourself in the process. You find a deeper version of yourself. You do not become identical copies of each other. You become stronger reflections of who you were always meant to be. Love does not chain you. It frees you to run your race with more courage because you know someone is running beside you. When you look back years later, you will see the evidence. You will see how you were once timid, but now you are bold. You will see how you once carried fear, but now you carry faith. You will see how you once hid your dreams, but now you live them. You will realize that you did not just fall in love, you rose in love. That is the ultimate transformation. A soulmate sent by God does not just share your life, they shape your life. They push you toward purpose. They sharpen your character. They strengthen your faith. They awaken your gifts. They make you better not because they demand it, but because their love makes growth feel natural. That is the love worth waiting for. That is the love worth guarding. That is the love that transforms not only your days, but your destiny. There comes a moment when everything we've talked about begins to settle deep into your heart, and you realize this was never just about love between two people. It was about the kind of love that awakens your soul and points you back to the one who designed you for more. Every story of waiting, every struggle, every tear you've carried was never wasted. They were shaping you, refining you, preparing you for a love that doesn't just feel good, but changes you at the core. And that's why you cannot afford to settle for less, because settling means trading the destiny of your soul for the comfort of the moment. Think about the weight of that. How many lives, how many generations, how many unseen ripples will be touched not by the love you dreamed of, but by the love you were created to embody. Fear will whisper that you're not worthy, that you'll miss it, that your story is over. But fear is a liar, and the very fact that you're still here, still breathing, still listening, means your story is unfolding. Excitement should rise in you now because you're not walking blind. You've been given keys, patterns, wisdom to recognize what's real and what's counterfeit. You're not stumbling in the dark. You're being led into something eternal. There's a deep truth here. The greatest soulmate you will ever have is not just the one who walks beside you on earth, but the one who crafted your soul in eternity. When he aligns your path with another soul who carries his light, everything changes. You won't just build a relationship, you'll build a legacy. You won't just share moments, you'll shape destinies. You won't just love, you'll transform, and that transformation will outlive both of you. So let your heart burn with courage, let wisdom guide your choices, and let your soul stand tall in the face of doubt. Because the story written over your life is far greater than the pain of your past or the fear of your future. And as you step forward, remember this. The love you're waiting for is not just about romance. It's about purpose, destiny, and the divine masterpiece that is your life.